You're integrated. How would you describe how you feel about, your cultural transformation or
I think I just identify myself as a Ukrainian Mexican. I'm Ukrainian, but I'm also Mexican.
come up about Latin America, other than when Maduro was abducted by the US government, is the number of Colombians serving in the Ukrainian military, because I think they're probably the biggest group of foreigners. So
New Europe Experience.
Привit and hola! Greetings from Odesa on the shores of the Black Sea, and welcome to another episode of the Vodka Vodcast with me, Conor Klein. This is the New Europe Experience, and today I have a return guest, Iryna Fedchenko. Iryna was born here in Ukraine, has been a significant YouTuber in the Spanish language, had moved to Mexico with her Mexican husband, and today we're going to discuss many topics to do with differences in culture between Ukraine and Latin America, the process of moving there, and how she feels about being Ukrainian, living in Mexico, and her plans for the future. Iryna, great to see you once again. We have not met in person for quite a while. The last time was in 2021 when I bumped into you and your husband Pablo in Kiev, if you remember. It was very random. I was actually filming, I think it was on Maidan Square, and you just walked into the background or something when I was doing a podcast. And the last time we scheduled, of course, and then we obviously hung out and we chatted a bit that day. And we did a video back in 2018 in Spanish where we talked about, I think it was Las Chicas Ucranianas, if I remember correctly. It's a long time ago. Great to see you. How have things gone? What do you remember from those days when you were here in Ukraine at this stage?
Привit, Connor. Привit, everyone. Well, first of all, I like the view. I love that you are in Odessa, and I can appreciate like the live view of this city. I actually last time was in Odessa in August 2021. And I really like, we with my sister was debating like, should we go like on this trip like for 3 days? And I, of course, I do not regret we went on this trip. We had a really great time there. And I really miss Ukraine and Kiev, where I'm from, and our time there, so yeah, last time I was there, it was November 2021. Yeah.
Okay, so it's already been 5 years. Maybe give the viewers a little bit of a background about what it was like to move to Mexico. I came across you first when you were creating content in Spanish, because I also speak some Spanish, and it was to do with this region in general, a lot of the cultural differences. You created a big audience on YouTube back in the day. You're one of the lead, I don't know, maybe the biggest, we'll say, European YouTuber in Mexico, maybe. I'm not really sure if there's any even bigger than you. What was that process like? Was it difficult? I've obviously met your Mexican husband, and what was it like to move to Mexico as a Ukrainian in particular?
Well, I moved to Mexico in 2012. So no, 13. It was 13 summer. So it was 13 years ago. When you think about it, it's like, oh my God, it's been a long time. When it's more than decades. So yeah, I moved there without well, I've been to Mexico previously, the previous year in 2012, several times. But yeah, one thing, I loved Mexico from the first sight, but then I really didn't know how to live there. But I was young, so I was like, okay, let's go on an adventure, live in another country. And I was really open to. Um, so I just moved here and started to build my career and to do stuff here, learning Spanish really quickly. Went to school, learned Spanish for many years, and yeah, and then I opened my YouTube channel in 2016. I uploaded my first video, but like I started to take it seriously in 2017, and I consider it was like a golden year for YouTube. The videos was the channels were growing so quickly, I mean, in any time you can grow a channel, but those years I remember was really really cool for like all these kind of niche like foreigners in Mexico, and it was really fun. I met so much interesting YouTubers there, and as a Ukrainian living in Mexico, it was really fun showing my culture to not only Mexicans but Latin Americans, Latin American viewers. Yeah.
Excellent. You mentioned that you were, I guess you said young when you moved. Do you think that played into it, not being so daunting? Because you did move half, I don't know, is it half the globe? Maybe not quite, but it's a long way away, Mexico. And had you been to Mexico before you met your husband and you decided to move at all? Did you speak any Spanish?
No, I didn't speak any Spanish. He invited me in 2012, and it was my first time going to Mexico. I came like 4 times before I moved here, 3, 4 times. So it was only because of him. I didn't know much about Mexico at that time. So yeah, being young, I was 20 years old, and I think I didn't fear. I was open to, and I had a lot of like dreams, things that I want to do there, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be fun. And I was really determined to learn Spanish and take out my accent, which I consider I managed to do like 98%, I would say. um so I really missed that Iryna, that I was really determined to do things. Right now I'm also doing this, but I think I'm more relaxed right now. I like doing my stuff, but in more relaxed way.
Okay, so back then you mentioned that there was this golden age of YouTube and channels grew very quickly, especially in the genre that I was also in, I guess a little bit later than you. Do you think that's why it resonated? It was just there was a huge opportunity that was there. You seem to have been super ambitious as well. You were not faced with moving content, learning Spanish, building a career in Spanish, because you were also working on Spanish language TV as well, if I remember back in the day. Do you think that was the main reason it resonated? Was it your passion, do you think? Was it your, I don't know, your charisma? Or do you think it was something to do with YouTube? It was just pushing all these channels at the time, or a combination? What do you think? Why do you think it had such a big impact?
I think it was a combination of factors. Everything, especially like in this industry, entertainment, it's a combination of things. So I consider it's difficult to speak about my things and things I build, objectively. I think I had interesting ideas for videos. Some were, and at that time, when you're working alone on the content, like you think this idea is like really stupid, and then you think, maybe it's interesting, and then you debating, and my husband also supported me all the way through it, and no, do it. Some videos, of course, they didn't work out, but some got viral. I got my audience, people was interesting, and from there I started to get more ideas from my viewers, like, can you speak about this topic? This is how the video about, for example, Chernobyl was built, was made. Like, people started to ask me, like, tell us about Chernobyl, blah blah blah. And I was like, okay, this is a good idea. So I made the first video, and then I went there several times. I made documentaries about that. So it's like also listening to your audience, and knowing like knowing the niche, and also knowing the reading the comments and understanding what people want to hear, want to listen about. So it was it was fun, because in 2000 I had the first video like in 2016. Then I made several videos, but I wasn't constant with my channel. In 2017, I decided to take it seriously, and I was uploading once a week, like straight for 2 3 years, like without missing any week from what I remember. And I was like, okay, I'm doing it. And sometimes I was late, but anyway, I was uploading. So yeah, and it really gave me this growth, being determined with my growth with my videos. I also traveled, and that helped as well. And then in 2018, I started to collaborate with other YouTubers, and it also helped. Collaborations, they help to grow. And yeah, and then the pandemic started.
Which then, led to another dynamic. In some ways, it changed the kind of content that was going to be popular. In hindsight, it also, I pivoted. I just talked a lot more about relocation because things were open here in Ukraine. I'm just thinking, is that kind of approach, is it as replicable today, do you think, as it was back then? Do we have that effect of being the right place at the right time back in 2016, 17, 18, 19 when we were starting our channels? Or do you think you can do the same thing today? It's just, just probably going to be in a different format. What are your thoughts?
I think you can do the same thing, maybe not the specific topics. You have to be more niche or more interesting, like the requirements for videos to get the audience are higher right now. And so I think the format, I think podcast is great right now, but short content as well is good. So it depends also on the business model you want to build with the YouTube channel. On it's only entertainment, or you want it's more educational. Like, what do we want to do? I personally, I'm moving to short form content because of my lifestyle right now, and I already been doing long videos for a long time, so I'm doing more short videos. So I think today you can do that. Yeah, definitely. I spoke to some people that are like important in the social media industry, more like coaches and the people that run agencies with more than 100 creators, and they're still telling me like YouTube channels with long content are really powerful, you should do it, and they are really talking about like it's better than short content, but for each their own, and it's still possible, and it's still a lot of value with long videos on YouTube for sure.
Yeah, that's been my experience. That's also why I've switched a little bit to producing longer and longer content for this channel as well. Looking at when you moved to Mexico, what did you really appreciate about Mexico when you arrived? What did you find the most challenging aspects as coming as a Ukrainian in your early 20s to live in Mexico? And actually having a career, and you weren't just there to have a holiday. You set up a new life.
Yeah. Well, the first things, I like the food, I like the people, and yeah, all of my husband's family and friends, they are still my family and friends, so they're really friendly, and people here in Mexico are really lovely. And well, I'm also Mexican right now, so I consider my parts as well. So I'm a Mexican. I got naturalized last year. It's the kindest people you can meet, I think. And the recent World Cup also showed that this is the best country to receive people, receive tourists. So yeah, I think the people is the most interesting part of this country. The culture is really colorful. It's a lot of things that you can do in Mexico City, travel, beaches, playas, and about hard things, maybe when I started to work, Latin American cultures like ahorita sending, and people say yes when it's a no. These kind of things is difficult to learn when you come, and it's still difficult for me. Well, not difficult, it's like still I'm okay, is it a yes, is it a no, like how do I interpret this? Yeah, but in general I am adapted, and also I lived in the last years in Los Angeles. Mexican culture even more right now.
Okay, after experience getting a contrast with the United States and California and LA as a city. Very, very. Are there some things, because you've adapted incredibly well to living in Mexico, and obviously Ukrainian culture is quite different. Like a lot of the things you mentioned, like mañana, mañana, not really the Ukrainian way of doing things. Are there some things that you think you haven't left behind as someone who came from Ukraine? Some things that you're just really still Ukrainian in your approach to how you do things? And you're not, even if you're a dual citizen today, you're Mexican, Ukrainian, there's some things where, okay, because I have it, I'm Irish, and no matter having lived in so many countries, there are some things that, they're just so ingrained in me culturally that I don't change them. And it's only when I get, a bit of a clash about it, I think, okay, this is something I held on to from my upbringing in Ireland.
Well, I think my face is more like rested, not like serious. What is still Ukrainian? I think I'm really straightforward. For sure, I'm in the workspace. I try to be more like people here. But in general, I'm like more straightforward. Things like that, and I'm telling what I think. This is the one. I can't think about something else. I hope my face is more rested, not like serious.
So it's probably softened a bit, but having started from the extreme Slavic stare, it's obviously less open probably than the average Mexican, I would imagine. And you're probably a bit stricter.
The Californian way of living is also is more like nice and happy and how are you, la la la, and all of this. So it also helped to improve like the small talk and stuff like that.
Okay, and having lived in Mexico, how has that changed how you view Ukraine? I know you haven't been here for a few years with the war, we can come to that in a minute, but how do you think that early phase of moving in your 20s, how did that change your relationship with your, having grown up in Ukraine, how you viewed the country?
Yeah, it's actually interesting because I was like I was born in Ukraine. I was raised in Ukraine for the first 20 years of my life. But then all my grown as an adult life, it was built in Mexico. I worked in Mexico. My first work emails was in Mexico. I had some chance to work in Ukraine when I was younger, but it was like not really serious thing. I appreciate everything about Ukraine. I appreciate the food. I miss very much the food, the people, like the way we talk. Also, like here, I don't know. It's more Mexican or like people in Ukraine are more straightforward, and we speak about more serious things. Like we're just go to the interesting stuff and we speak about all these like serious things. I don't know how you can, like, you are there, how do you interpret this?
Yeah, there's very little small talk compared to even Western Europe. Never mind being in Latin America, where there's even more small talk and people are like, open to saying hi to strangers a lot more. Even in my building in Ukraine, I'm a little bit more outgoing than people here, so I just say hello. I don't care if they ignore me, to be frank. But for them, having not seen me maybe a few times already, don't even acknowledge me if I come into the elevator, for example. So there's things like this that are definitely more like reserved than for sure than you even find in Western Europe. Never mind Latin America, which is obviously at a different level. So yeah, things like small talk, very little of it. Maybe there's a bit more in Ukraine than there is in Poland. I think in Poland it's even less. It's the place where you have even less small talk. So yeah, there's these cultural norms, social norms that are strikingly different, I find. So you've obviously been living in Mexico for quite a while, with back and forth between LA, the great city of Los Angeles. Going back to just after you left in 2021, we had the extended Russian invasion of 2022. What was that like for you as a Ukrainian living abroad? How did the events, how did you view them? You were obviously seeing them on the screen, you weren't here at the time, and how did that change your relationship maybe with Ukraine?
Yeah, just to put it in the perspective with the people that lived this moment in Ukraine, or that are directly affected. Like, I will be speaking about things that was hard for me, but they are not in comparison, comparing to people that are like really suffering like directly from the war. Like I wasn't affecting on this level. So I just want to put it in the perspective that, of course, like mentally it was heartbreaking, like for everyone that was living like outside of Ukraine and had family in Ukraine. And also in the 4 months before war started, my father passed away, and we was still grieving, and my family was there. And I just left in November, and then in February all of this started. It was like, um the grief was like I'm losing all of my family. I didn't sleep like for 1 week, didn't eat. Like, my husband like just brought me food so I could eat. I was just on my phone and like looking all these things, trying to do things. It was a lot of disinformation as well. Now I understand it, and that time was like crazy. I just remember recording a video, uploading to YouTube, or speaking to media. And it was like, I was like, just I don't know how I was awake. I was just speaking. I don't really think I was conscious at that time. And Yeah, I was just really on my phone, and my sister left on the train, and she was in the train like 2 days, and I was there like just waiting for her to leave Ukraine. And my grandparents, since then I lost my two grandparents, my two grandmothers since the war started. So I didn't have a chance to be there with them or with my family. And yeah, it was like for all the Ukrainians, it was heartbreaking. And I started like to recover after 1 week. I started maybe to recover a little bit, and then 1 month, and months by months you start like to accepting it, because it always, you remember how was it like, it only will last 2 weeks, and then only 3 weeks, and then 1 month, and in April it will done, and then in June it will be done, it will be over, and you live like by waiting and waiting when it will be done. And then stuff was happening, we remember a lot of things was happening at that time. Then in April, I think I went to Tijuana, because I was living at that time in Los Angeles. So I went to Tijuana to see the people that was coming from Ukraine through Mexico, from Mexico to San Diego in the border. So I made video about that, and I met those people, was speaking to them, and it also helped to be closer to my people, because, well, in Los Angeles we did some stuff, but yeah, I did some interviews for a lot of interviews for Mexican media and some other media. I don't even remember, because people was like, just can you connect and talk, and I was doing that. So yeah, and then we are living like this till now, and it's a different stage of life, like you are living it every day, not that intense, and it's different, you are living in this state forever right now.
Yeah, I remember back in the beginning, just after the invasion, we even spoke on, I think you had a Facebook Live that you asked me to come. I was in Mokeche. Yeah, it would have been in March or April 2022. Yeah, it was overwhelming at the time. There was so much, I guess, uncertainty. People expected Russia to fully occupy, at least to overthrow the government in Kyiv, and that was the kind of sentiment created, I think, in the media back at the time. And that obviously hasn't turned out to be the case. What do you think that maybe in Latin American media or also American media that doesn't get through about the situation? Is there anything particular that stands out? Do you think that we could improve on communicating?
Yeah, also when you compare like to Mexico right now and 5 years ago, and 4 years ago when it started, it's different. Right now people are talking much less about that, and some people even ask like if it's done or it's over. Like, it's not over, just media are not covering it anymore. And of course in United States it's covered more, much more, and people are more conscious, they know what's happening. In Mexico, it's much less. Latin Americans media, they are covering much less. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess just less pertinent to the everyday life of a Mexican, what happens in Europe than being American, where because of the US being such an important country in the world, having a big military and being, to a certain extent, involved in the conflict, not directly, but obviously the US government helped Ukraine, especially back under the previous administration, not so much under the current one. But it's always there in the news, and Trump talks about it a lot more. That's interesting. So it's slipped away a lot more in the Latin American media compared to the rest of the international media, should we say.
Yeah, but there is also an explanation for that. Yeah, like United States, it's an English speaking country. It's more like news from all over the world, and politics or economics of the United States are also affected by this war. But for example, in Ukraine, do we know anything about Venezuelan situation or any other countries in Latin America, maybe Mexico or Colombia? And we don't know much in Ukraine about that. Because it's far away, the cultures are different, so we don't find out much about Latin American stuff in Ukraine and vice versa. So there is an explanation for that as well, or like cultures that are not English speaking.
I agree. The only thing that I've seen come up about Latin America, other than when Maduro was abducted by the US government, is the number of Colombians serving in the Ukrainian military, because I think they're probably the biggest group of foreigners, so they interview them, but only because it's pertinent to the war. Otherwise, it would obviously not feature so prominently. So it's two maybe cultures that, yeah, for the everyday person, they're not really so relevant to each other, compared to other places. Very true. Do you think that the war has changed maybe your relationship with Ukraine to a certain extent? I mean, you talked about your family and having to wait for your sister to evacuate, and some other people in the family passed away since, and having to worry about them. Did it make you feel maybe a bit closer, even though you were far away to Ukraine? What do you think overall was the impact with your relationship with the country?
Well, my relationship, like, it's the first time I haven't been to Ukraine for a long time. I really want to go, but I'm not able right now. um of course, that is not helping. I will be seeing my mom like in 2 weeks, but after 2 years we didn't see each other because of all these, like me living in the United States, she's in Ukraine, and all of this. um I'm in contact with my friends that are, some are in Europe, some are moved to Canada, some moved to Poland, or some was already living in Poland. So I'm in contact with my friends from Ukraine from that time, from school and university, stuff like that. I found out about friends that suddenly moved to Latin America, and I found out, like, I have a friend request in Facebook. Oh, hi Iryna, it's long time we haven't spoke to each other. I'm living in Chile right now, stuff like that. It's interesting. People are moving to Latin America or to Spain. So I'm in contact with a lot of people, but also, like, my lifestyle, it's not only about the situation in the country, but my situation, like, I'm a mom right now from 3 years ago to now, so I don't have time um to be like on the internet anymore. So I'm doing my best, but yeah, I have also other stuff going on. So I'm busy, and it was heartbreaking to have my child not coming to Ukraine, and yeah, and I hope soon it can be fixed and I can bring him to Ukraine. Yeah.
I was going to ask you that. How has becoming a mother changed your outlook on life? With the war at the moment, you're not going to bring your child to Ukraine, but how do you manage that with trying to keep them in contact some way with their Ukrainian roots?
That's why I'm not coming. I can't go by myself. I right now, I'm all my decisions, like how I'm risking myself, because I have responsibilities right now. And also for him, I know for him it will be not a good experience to, like, a long travel, and then the situation, I can't, like, I know people are coming with kids and people are living there, but my choice right now, I'm will not bringing him to Ukraine right now. Well, we assist some events. We was assisting some events in Los Angeles. There is a big Ukrainian diaspora there, so I was bringing them there. He knows his mom is from Ukraine, his babushka is from Ukraine. He has his Ukrainian short, and we are trying to keep it going. But it's not the same when you can go to Ukraine and experience the food, the things, all of that. So it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, but you managed in some way to introduce your child to Ukrainian culture, the language, and to keep it there, at least on some level, waiting for things to change. And would you ever consider moving back to Ukraine? Obviously, assuming that the war ends. Would you consider it, or you think that you would just visit maybe on holidays and base yourself in Latin America and LA indefinitely?
I don't think so, not because of the war or right now, because it was before, even before the war. Was like, I like to come for vacation for 2-3 months, yes, in summer, but working, like, my work is all in the Hispanic culture, like Mexico, in Spanish, so I don't see myself there in Ukraine, working in Ukraine. Only because of that, and I already used to live here in Mexico. So, but for vacation, for sure. I love to come in summer. This is my favorite time to come. From May, like, to August or something like that would be really nice to come every year for 2 months. This is a dream of mine, for me, for my child, for my family. And yeah, like, traveling in Ukraine would be nice. Yeah, I haven't been in winter. Well, I was in November 2021, but before that I was like in 2019. I think I was in February, and winter, it's not like my climate. I would love to spend maybe New Year, but since it's so cold, I'm not used to anymore. So just coming once a year for summer would be really, really great.
Yeah, that's a personal decision. Like for me, I like to change the seasons. I actually like when it's cold, even if it's minus 20 with wind chill, up to a point. There's obviously a limit. It's also interesting to me to hear that because you've been working in Latin America and you also in LA, you built up the skill set in Spanish and English, that moving back to Ukraine permanently, you would have to give up a lot at this stage, right? Also leaving aside the personal family situation, but even in terms of your, the value that you provide. And yeah, that's true. Once you come to a certain region, you become more and more skilled in a certain niche that maybe is specific to the geography. Then, yeah, it's hard to go back, or you have to give up a lot to go back. I'm here in this region all the time, so my knowledge of Western Europe is kind of atrophying a little bit. I think I almost need to go back for a few months just to catch up and understand how things are at this point, because I've been here for so long at this stage. So, do you think that in general, the people who move, like you basically, can we say, do you ever really leave anything? Can you ever really become 100%, I think, your adopted new identity in the sense of now you're Mexican? Or do you think it exists on, how would you describe it? Because obviously you're from Ukraine, you're Ukrainian Mexican. Do things that you become completely assimilated into Mexican culture, or you're integrated? How would you describe how you feel about, your cultural transformation or identity?
I think I just identify myself as a Ukrainian Mexican. I'm Ukrainian, but I'm also Mexican. So it's neither this, neither that, or both of them. I'm half because it's been a long time. As I said, like all my adult life, I've been living in Mexico or Los Angeles a little bit. I consider it like Hispanic culture anyway. It's the United States, but it's not like it was a lot of time. So yeah, like I'm half, and I have both traits from both cultures, and some things that they're both cultures bringing richness to my identity, so yeah, I consider myself both.
Okay, very good. And for people who might be thinking of following your footsteps, not necessarily moving from Ukraine to Mexico, because people are going to watch this thing, they're probably going to think about doing the opposite. Maybe there are Mexicans who are going to see this, Latin Americans, Western Europeans. Do you think it's important to follow you as an example, you moved, you built a career, you became successful, you created a family in your new home, and you feel both Mexican and Ukrainian, you're naturalized. Do you think that's something to strive for? Because most people who, say, move from Western Europe and North America and end up in this region, most of them don't learn the local language. They don't, it's debatable. They certainly don't assimilate. Very debatable whether many of them even integrate. What's your advice for people who want to come to maybe Ukraine, not necessarily Ukraine, but we'll say Central Europe as well? Because Poland is very popular at the moment. Like obviously Ukraine will be post-war once again, like it was before the invasion. How do you think that people should, what advice would you give to how they should approach coming to live in this region?
Yeah, I wouldn't say for sure like follow my path or for what I did. I did it for specific reasons, and also like I consider it's really different to when you move young and you move like later in life, because you already have built something previously and you are moving maybe with something built before, and you are more assimilated to the culture you're coming from. So I really integrated quickly because I was young, and I really liked the culture, and I was like really determined to be like integrated to the culture. I think people have to just make decisions based on their like benefit for them and their family, if they have family, because also moving with the whole family, it's different than moving alone. Like if you are alone, you just pack your bags and you are moving. Now that I moved forward to Los Angeles, I can really understand how hard can it be as a family moving back and all of this. and starting everything from zero. Like you have to get your documents and all of these, like a taxes thing, and it's like adult life. It's it's different, difficult things that you have to get in order. So just consider the factors that you gonna like you gonna live. Like what about your work, what about your lifestyle? I know people that are moving, like, okay, I'm moving to Spain, I never been there, but I'm moving to Spain. Like, okay, you never been there, but okay, let's give it a try. If you don't have anything to lose, you can move. Or maybe there is always a possibility to move back if you have that chance. Like there is a lot of people from United States that are moving all over the world right now, because of the better lifestyle, and I mean more affordable maybe. So it's a decision for each their own. You If you always can come back to your country, then why not? If there is no way, there is some situation that it's not possible to come back. I know people that have like difficult situation with the documents in the United States, and they are taking a decision like, I'm leaving, and I know that I will not be able to move back. Well, this is a really hard decision to make, right? But if you always can move back, why not to try, and then you can always move back.
So was there much of a Ukrainian or Eastern European Slavic diaspora in Mexico when you moved? Did you have that maybe support of other people in a similar situation when you moved, or it was non-existent, and that's something that's come later, in particular with this war and people leaving Ukraine?
Well, maybe it's something controversial, but I think if you want to integrate, you have to be with the local people more. I had some friends that I made here, Ukrainian friends, but most of my friends are Mexican here, family and friends. But I have some close friends from Ukraine from the time I moved here. I think what helps you to integrate and to build a life, it's just start to work in communicate with people from here, maybe other foreigners, I don't know. But the language part is important. Some people are moving here and they don't learn the language, which I think it's important to learn the language. Depends also what you do for work. A lot of factors, but yeah, if you want to be integrated, you have to mix.
You have to mix, you have to learn the local language. It sounds like what I preach on my channel in general. I call it Conor's Law. So, excellent. Iryna, thanks very much for coming on today. I hope that we get to see you come into one of my videos on accident like it was in 2021. Actually, one of my friends, if you saw the small child at the beginning, that's actually my friend and his son. They actually did kind of what you and Pablo did. He just came along and I was filming here. I'll have to go and catch up with him now. But we're looking forward to seeing you back in Ukraine at some juncture. It won't be in 2026 because it's going to get cold. Even if the war is ended at this point, you'd probably wait until next summer.
When the war is over, I will be coming next day.
Next day, okay. Okay, well, we'll hold you to that. We'll be waiting for you, day +1 after this war finally ends. I think personally that will be sometime in 2027. I'm an optimist by nature. I guess if I weren't an optimist, I wouldn't be standing here in Odesa right now for sure. Thank you for imparting some interesting wisdom, I think, for someone who's moved, going the opposite way of what my audience normally does. My audience is normally moving to places like Ukraine, places like Poland, but of course also they're interested on the aspect of building a family in general and what life would be like with a kind of a mixed Ukrainian and from somewhere else family, ultimately, most of them. So thank you so much for coming on today. Muchas gracias, дуже дякую, and do побачення.
Thank you, Conor. Дякую. And I really appreciate you showing me the view. I was really enjoying walking, living their life. It was really great to see the park.
Yeah, this is life in Odesa in spite of the war. I think it's a sign of the resilience of the Ukrainian people, even if people use that word a little bit tritely.
The kids and the people, it's really lovely. Yeah. Thank you.
It's something. Okay, super. Ciao, ciao. So it's another beautiful Sunday afternoon here in Odesa, Mama, just off the shores of the Black Sea. Most people are down at the beach at the moment, but I'm here in front of the iconic Odesa Opera House. And if you are planning to come here to Ukraine, then I have many ways that I help my clients. And the principal one is through my consulting services. You will find a link down below in the description to this video to my consulting services. And in particular, I have a new innovation this summer of 2026, which is what my clients are now dubbing Conor AI. It is trained on my videos here on YouTube, and in addition, much of my premium off-platform content. And on top of that, I actually feed in my insider guides for coming here to Ukraine. So we'll cover all my favorite cafes, restaurants, clubs, shisha lounges, and I guess rooftop bars as well. Not only here in the cities like Odessa, Kyiv, Lviv, Uzhhorod, and Chernovtsi that you might be planning to come to, but also my other guides in the region. So you got magical Moldova, you've got Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, you got wonderful Warsaw, and you've got Astana and Almaty on or just off the Central Asian steppes in Kazakhstan. So it's really a groundbreaking way to be able to access my encyclopedic knowledge 24/7, and it is best utilized as part of a bundle with a consulting call because it is great post-call support. You'll be able to go and ask all your discrete questions after I've outlined a strategic plan for you to reach your goals with relocation, business, investment, relationships, and networking and lifestyle here in the cities that I cover on this channel. So you can go and invest in a consulting call or the standalone Conor AI as a monthly subscription via the links in the description to this video. And since I mentioned that it's time to go to the beach, I'm actually going to head down to the seaside right now and enjoy the rest of the Sunday afternoon. And I bid you a safe trip to here and the region, and chat soon. And as always, Slava Ukraini, do peremоги.